On hate crimes, Fox News has uncovered a disturbing trend in racially motivated attacks.
Aidan Pickering is here now with part one of his special investigation. Aidan.
Well, John, Christine, it's about skinheads fighting skinheads. Some believe that rivalry is creating a vicious cycle of violence in which innocent victims are being caught up. Tonight, in a Fox News investigation, the story behind the story, the anatomy of a hate crime. The testimony of a 14-year-old boy shocks a hushed courtroom in a little publicised case in LA, held in the same building as the O.J. Simpson trial.
You're a white supremacist, is that correct?
Yes.
As a white supremacist, what do you believe in terms of white supremacy?
I believe in having our own Aryan race.
And is that a white race?
Yes.
Okay, can blacks be part of it?
No.
A preliminary hearing involves 3 alleged white supremacists, all facing the possibility of life in prison after a shooting earlier this year in the Antelope Valley.
Racism's f***ing ignorant.
And there's a unique backdrop to this crime involving a conflict between rival groups of skinheads, a setting, some say, that makes this type of crime more likely to recur. Heads shaved, one skinhead piles upon another, members of the same group in Lancaster letting off steam. A party house, where the dog is the only one with hair.
This is Kibble's. Hey, check it. Who is it?
Unless girlfriends come over. But look at the insignia.
The O, and then the L, and the R.
And you'll find these guys are very different from what most people think of as skinheads.
All skinheads aren't racist, and the original skinheads weren't racist either.
They call themselves skinheads against racial prejudice, or sharps.
What's up, man?
They just like the skinhead look and point out the movement was founded in fashion.
Psycho City right there.
Not fascism. But with many skinheads embracing hate and Hitler, the sharps are prepared to fight their racist lookalikes.
White power.
Not many street corners away from the sharps are Lancaster's other skinheads.
They ain't skinheads, this is skinheads right here.
White power.
It's straight up white power.
These teens say they're members of a brotherhood called Nazi Lowriders. Others go by the name Peckerwoods. They are racist and spew a vocabulary of violence and hate.
Those who oppose us shall die by my hand.
The talk degenerates into schoolyard boasts of wanting to kill minorities. They laugh and use racial epithets.
They push us around all our lives. Why do you think we are the way we are?
They say that we're
and they wonder
prejudiced.
why we hate them so much.
But why should this clash of ideas and the resulting fights on the streets of Lancaster and other Southland communities matter to the rest of us?
Some people in a car were shot at by skinheads.
County Sheriff's Deputy Chris Haymond recalls the incident that led to this week's court case. And it happened here. A dark blue Honda had just pulled up on this street. Inside, 3 men and a 4-year-old girl, all African-American. 6 shots rang out. The 2 men in the front seat were injured by the bullets. The 2 in the back, including the little girl, were injured by flying glass. The case is in its early stages, but the DA is using tough new legislation to prosecute this as a hate crime.
That they are skinheads, that they are against blacks.
And the court agreed to requests by victims and witnesses not to be identified. The DA explains why.
Because all of them have expressed a fear for their safety, in that if they testify and indicate what they know in terms of what the skinheads did to them, that they have a fear for their safety, that some harm may come to them.
Now Fox News has uncovered the story behind the alleged hate crime, and it's a story with chilling implications for everyone.
There's like 2 white power people standing like up there on the curb next to the windows.
Johnny is a member of a sharp group. They're the non-racists. He says the day of that shooting started with yet another confrontation with some racist skinheads, this time involving his friend, whose name we've chosen not to reveal.
They called him a nigger, and basically they were like starting a lot of stuff with them, so got into a fight with one, knocked him out.
Johnny says when his friend drove past a few minutes later, there were more taunts.
Got out of his car, put a gun in his waistband, and asked him, he said, you know, do you guys have any problems? The white power guy said no.
Fox News caught up with Johnny's friend, who's not a sharp member, but someone Johnny claims was lending them a bit of muscle against the white power skinheads.
About 5 of them just came up and were saying racial slurs. I just got mad and hit one in the eye.
He's vague about the gun.
Was there a gun involved?
No, not really.
Not really?
Not really.
Johnny says the stage was then set for a street fight between the Sharps and the white power skinheads. He claims they waited for the Sharps to show at this intersection, and that's where the shooting occurred later that day.
The person who actually got shot, they were driving a dark-colored four-door Honda, which basically looked like his Sentra that he was driving.
The two believe it was all a case of mistaken identity because of a similar car.
The first of that called me and said two of my other friends I got shot. Mistakenly supposed to be for me.
Investigators are more cautious.
That's another thing we're continuing to investigate. That's a good possibility.
Watchdog groups that monitor skinheads say the Lancaster incident follows a pattern.
Anytime that you have two groups that are struggling in a turf war, whether it be skinhead gangs or other types of gangs, the risk to innocent people is significant.
We are United States of America, not the Confederate States of America.
And African-American leaders say yes, many do feel at risk, even though many minorities move to the Antelope Valley to escape inner-city violence.
What we have found is that while there's a quiet community, there's a lot of racism going on in here. And a lot of times our public officials are just brushing it under the rug.
Local officials deny the charge they're ignoring racial crimes. County sheriffs point out the statistics.
The number of incidents that are involved in are relatively small compared to the number of crimes that actually occur in the valley.
But community groups say the statistics don't give the whole picture.
And many times this occurs, and it's just not reported. It's just cast off. It's just being another regular crime.
We've heard the same criticisms, and we attempt to investigate everything that's reported.
There are signs of the authorities taking racial attacks more seriously, a willingness to prosecute violent cases as hate crimes. And the LA County Commission on Human Relations has been asked to prepare a report on hate crimes in the Antelope Valley.
There needs to be a lot of education about just the concept of it, and for law enforcement to do stronger outreach, and even after they do the outreach, to do their investigations in a very sensitive way.
Okay, yeah, just go. Why don't we just go find somebody to stick them in?
But while community groups and authorities mobilize, it's a long way away from the street and culture of hate espoused by the 80 or so suspected neo-Nazi skinheads under investigation by law enforcement in this area. And this is not the first time the
You know, Lancaster is like a fucking gangbang resort for everybody that moved from L.A.
Yes.
Worst motherfuckers in the world move out there because the rent is cheap, and before you know it, there'd be 20,000 gangs out there, or motherfuckers that used to be in a gang living out there, and they'd be mixing and matching because some of them don't raise their kids right.
Nigga, get that shit up out of here. They don't give a fuck. Get out of here, nigga. Nigga, I bust shots at bitches too, nigga, on my mama. Nigga, I shoot bitches too. On my dead homies, nigga. That's what you want, nigga. Somebody out there shoot that bitch.
Where she at? Come on. Where you at, Earl? Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you. Where she at? I don't care. I'm sick of that bitch trying to scare me, you big bald rat. Let's go on the party. Come on, let's go on the party. Come on, everybody, let's spin this. I don't want you.
That fool ran like a bitch. You see that shit? He ran like a bitch. It's so fucking hectic on the roadings. This is G-Fred speaking. All the bitches. You back in there, cuz. Come on now. Bang. Ooh. Come on now. Bang. Ooh. The bitch. Hey, back up in there, cuz. What's happening?
No, we watch out!
Wait, what's up with it?
Eastside 911 Murder Mafia gang, 911, Katie Assassin. That's what they call me, I'm Big Lowdown. You feel me? Eastside Murder Mafia gang.
Yeah.
Twins plus the G, Eastside with your fish street, Murder Mafia me.
Yeah, what's up with it?
Man, that's what it is right there. 2 C's that don't breathe, my nigga.
Yeah.
Yep. West side.